We're back. Welcome back to We're Not the Same, guys. I'm Katie.
And I'm Brian.
And we're so excited to share some big news with you today, as well as share some encouragement as we near the end of 2023.
Yep. So let's dive in.
So we'll kick it off with our exciting announcement, which most of you listening probably already know since we've shared on multiple social media platforms at this point. But we are expecting baby number 3. And
it's a boy.
Yeah. I was going to say, should we say the gender? But again, most people
you guys already know. So we got 2 little girls and a baby boy on the way, which is very exciting.
And he seems like he's going to be a big boy based on this belly.
We shall see. Strong, healthy boy is what we're hoping for.
Yes.
So very excited. And it's just like, I don't know what to expect. I mean, even with it's a 3rd kid, but being a boy, like I feel like we're going to face a whole new set of challenges.
Well, the boy obviously makes it a little bit different, but also not having had a newborn in 3.5 years. It's like, wait, what do you do?
Learn how to be newborn parents again.
And we just are planning to do certain things different. I mean, we haven't been total screw ups up until this point, but
that's true. By the grace of God.
I'm not going to change everything, but
yeah,
certainly some of the things we're going to do differently. So, but we wanted to just share a little bit of the story, I guess, behind the baby, kind of a little testimony.
That's right.
That's what this baby is. But, we had shared through several posts and in different podcast episodes. I was rewatching some of my old videos when I was pregnant before, we're going to just have 2 and be done. And we really felt that. I mean,
we got rid of everything. I mean, mostly 99% of everything. We're like, clean house, baby. Let's get this stuff out of here. Oops.
I know, it's so crazy.
But
I can't believe we were that confident.
I know. We just felt so strongly about that we were just complete and everything was good and kind of everything was getting easier in the sense of nothing's easy about parenting, but kind of coming out of that season and being the girls are a little more independent. I don't know. It's just different than.
But we got rid of everything so our second, Georgia, as she left those phases, I was getting rid of stuff. So it's not like we kept everything for a year and then got rid of it all.
Yeah.
I was just done, which is crazy because I've always said I wanted 4 kids. You've always said one at a time. Don't want to test God with that.
We'll see.
I'm going to end up with multiples or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, 1 at a time? Okay.
Here's 3 at a time.
Oh,
yeah.
God. No.
Don't speak that out.
I rebuke that.
That's right.
Luckily, it is just 1 this time.
Yes, indeed.
But, unless there's something that got missed, it's pretty big.
Yeah. No, I think you're good. I think it's just 1 in there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so we were super adamant about it, but then, we've grown a lot in our faith and prayed a lot about it. And
we both kind of felt our hearts changing at some point. I think as our girls have been growing up and just, it's like, wow, we got married and started our family relatively young, not teen parents or anything like that, but
younger than our friend group.
We were 27 and 28 when Georgia was born.
Yeah.
So to just already be done with that whole phase of life that I literally spent my entire life looking forward to just saddened me a little, but I also was scared at the thought of having more children. But we both just had our hearts changing kind of at the same time and prayed on it separately and together, and here we are.
Yeah. We talk about it so much on the podcast, so about going back to other episodes about how if we put so adamant about putting God first and then everything else falls into place. And I think we were just holding so strongly on to we're going to control this. This is what we feel. And we're like, this is crazy. We're turning everything over, everything else over to God and things. So why not this also? And we kind of came to that as we prayed about it a lot. And then he blessed us right away.
Yes. And I think we've shared before that we haven't done a full episode, but we use natural family planning. And so I was definitely at least operating from a place of fear. And I was terrified. Like, what if we, accidentally get pregnant? And I just, through our faith journey, realized how wrong that is to just be living in this fear every month of, oh, am I pregnant? Even though we've never had an accident in 7 years.
Yeah.
But just the way, I was
works.
like really scared of having more kids. And so I think giving our lives to God and just not giving that aspect to God didn't feel right and didn't make a lot of sense. So that was kind of the start of slowly, over many months,
away at our
sanctification and things changing.
Yeah. So it's just really cool to see that, our hearts changed, and thank God. And we're so grateful for this guy in here, and we can't wait to meet him after he's fully cooked.
Yes. We can wait until
39 weeks.
40 weeks.
40 weeks. Okay.
I'm hoping for a due date, baby. I want to be in that 2%.
That's true. Well, Katie's fear, because 2024 is a leap year. So February 29th, like our due date is in that area. So like we are at risk of that. So Katie wants to avoid that at all possible.
Could be the birthday, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's good. We'll see.
So we're kind of calling this like our season 2 of the podcast since we had a little bit of a break. So earlier on in season 1 of the podcast, we had a whole episode about pregnancy and childbirth and things we would do differently. And like at that point, we were not really.
No, we were just talking about we were nowhere near wanting to or ever having one of your kids.
So we just did that episode because that's one of the topics we wanted to cover. But we are doing a lot of things differently. And so that kind of ties into the topic of today's episode, which is we want to just give some encouragement to those of you out there who are like us and are on this journey of making changes and have been on this journey. But now that the world kind of feels like it's back to normal, a new normal, but still just more the status quo, our day-to-day lives are not that different than they were, 3 years ago. But how do we stay the course, and how do we continue to press on and making changes that are better for our families, better for our faith, better for society? Ultimately, if we're all doing better as individuals, then the world is going to be a better place. So how do we make these lasting changes and stick with them even when it might just be easier to kind of go back to the old ways?
Yeah, I mean, this is hopefully to encourage you to figure out how you can do the same thing. And we're still learning and growing too, but that's kind of the whole point of this podcast, is sharing our journey, and so that it can help you, and just some thoughtful things to think about as we go through this.
Yeah, so in the past few months, we have had a couple incidences of just, various things, injuries, sicknesses, whatever. But through all that, I have been so thankful because of, I feel like the team that we have built
we have a team now
around ourselves. And I've just been so grateful that, we have found these people, practitioners that can help us on this journey. You have these times as parents with young kids, and honestly, probably kids of any age, where you need a doctor. All the times that you ran to the pediatrician before, if you're no longer just having a go-to pediatrician, then what are you doing? And I think that's a lot of the fear that stops people from making changes, is because they're like, well, my pediatrician, who will I go to if my kid gets an ear infection or whatever it is? And so they're like, well, I don't want to, get kicked out of my pediatrician or leave my pediatrician, even if they don't agree with, the way that you want to care for your family.
It's okay. It's okay to get kicked out. Yeah, I think it's okay to realize that there are other options for you to find what best fits what you believe in and what kind of care that you want. Ultimately, this is you and your kids. So if the pediatrician or the people that are surrounding you aren't in line with your beliefs, then it's okay to say like, hey, well, we're going to go somewhere else, or we're going to find somewhere else. Like, they don't care. Like, they honestly, like, you're a number and money to them. So anyway, I think that for us, it was finding like, what does that team look like?
Yeah, I think that 2020, of course, God would use the year 2020 to clear all of our vision, to see things more clearly, right? Like, that's what everybody, had kind of realized, the ones who woke up at least to things. But just the realization of, I feel like, and this is going to be a little conspiracy theory for some of you, but the almost like spell that people are under of the medical model, and certainly we fell under it, of just trusting these doctors, trusting these people so much, and so just inherently. And I would say we're more on like the skeptical side, and always have done our own research and all that, but yet you still put so much weight on, oh, the doctor said this or that and the other. And so coming out of that and realizing that we're the customer, but we're also the employer in a sense. Like, they don't have a job without us. We're paying them. And so of course you want to partner with people that are going to be able to know more than you and give you advice on things, but you also want to make sure that you're in alignment and that they respect you as an individual and also as a parent to make choices, and not, they're not just laying down the law that you have to follow. It should be partnering together to come out with what works for you, looking at your whole situation, and not just, oh, textbook answer, throw a pill at it, or whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's so much things that, like, a good doctor and partner in your community of folks that you have wrapped around you should help you to brainstorm and come up with ideas that best suits you and your family. So part of that is them getting to know you and actually knowing you versus you just being, another patient. Because there's so many things we've talked about in other podcasts too, like ear infections and fevers and things. Like, we've learned so many new things of just like treating those in ways first before ever and even needing to engage a doctor. But it's cool to find doctors and stuff who are there to help you think through those other options instead of just throwing antibiotics at things like, hey, have you tried this or tried that? Or like, and that I think is, that's a sign of finding someone who is aligned with like your beliefs.
Or even just a more conservative doctor who's going to say, well, they're going to be okay if we wait a day or two and see. I feel like when we were just at the regular pediatrician's office, it's just like, well, we don't want you to have to come back, so we'll just go ahead and prescribe today. Even, they take a culture. The culture's not even back yet, but go ahead and get started on the antibiotics.
Yep.
This is so crazy. Like,
it is. So yeah, as you start thinking about this like team of people, I mean, we'll share. So for us, and this did not happen all at once, but I think for us, it worked out to like our first kind of breakout was like finding a chiropractor that was awesome and is awesome. And he's like one of our best friends. But like having someone who is super passionate that's like outside of the traditional medical field, that was super helpful and like help us learn so many different things, not just related to chiropractic, but alternative medicine solutions and things like that. So I think that was really good. And he also had a great community and all that. So I think we got a chiropractor plus. Like, yeah, I don't think he's the stand. I mean, I don't have experience with other chiropractors, but
I think, we found him through his podcast and Designed to Heal. Shout out if you want to go listen to that. But, we were people who, again, it's like under the spell of the medical model that hates chiropractors and that puts them down and calls them quacks and all those things. Like, literally, there's like lawsuits about how they called them quacks, but we're against it.
Yeah.
If you told us 5 years ago, like, you're going to be going to chiropractor, you'd be like, what?
Yeah. And now he's like our first call if we have something that's like serious.
Yeah. And I've gotten several friends to start going to chiropractors, and they've had really great experiences too. And it's just like, oh, wow. Like, how did I not know about this? And it's
Well,
just
because
because there's literally a system in place to make sure that you don't know about it. That's why you didn't know.
Yeah. And I mean, a big portion of chiropractic is getting your body realigned so that it can do what God designed it to do, which was heal. So unsurprisingly.
And if you can find like a faith-based chiropractor, which it seems like there's quite a few out there seem to be of that mindset. So finding someone who not just believes in getting the body in alignment, but getting the body that God designed that's filled with the Holy Spirit in alignment.
Yes.
That's like an additional step too.
That's one of our first kind of pillars of our medical community as our chiropractor. And then I think from there, it took us a lot longer to do the next step was to find the right, we wanted to have a family doctor. Like we've talked about this for a long time around, we didn't have someone who was really knowing us and knowing our family history and like really getting to know us, not just us, but our girls. Like I feel like our pediatrician was pretty good just because we thought just because like, unfortunately our youngest daughter, our oldest daughter had a lot of medical issues. So like early on, so like we had a lot more interaction with our pediatrician early on than I think most parents did. So that felt like we were building a bond, but it turns out that was not the case.
That was only, just on our side where we
felt that,
but you know, she just saw us as a paycheck.
Yep. So anyway, we wanted someone who actually cared about us and would get to know us. So, and it takes time. That's the biggest thing. It takes time. But I think if you do some research, look at their websites, like see what they're about. Like if they're associated with like big hospitals or like big groups of doctors.
Don't go with someone associated with a hospital.
Yeah.
It's not gonna end well. The reason that the family doctor change is more recent is because our pediatrician kind of played us for like a year and a half.
Yes.
Acting and pretending like there was agreement and acceptance of our personal choices. And then I guess there was actually this, unbeknownst to me, timer on that agreement that ran out. And then it's do as I say or get out. And so of course we got out. But don't be afraid of that. Like literally, so what? You know, I mean, thankfully we were at a place where we were only going to the well child checkups. We weren't really needing to go too often for other reasons, thanks to all the other things that we changed in our lifestyle, probably.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be someone, you know, like God forbid something really goes wrong, the hospital's always going to be there. You know, you don't have to have this person that you feel like you're clinging on to and so scared of, you know, losing that, or, oh, well, they're so nice and I really like them. Well, who cares if they're nice? Are they really nice if they're not respecting you as a parent? No, they're not. So anyways,
it's not a bitter subject at all.
So we found someone else
that much more aligns with our beliefs and all that. So I think that's a pretty recent change. So we're excited. But again, part of that is like that she like gives you her cell phone number and like says like, call me, like if you have any emergency, like call me before you go to the ER. Cause like we can take care of a lot of stuff. We can walk you through things. We can bring to the office and take care of stuff here. Or like we can find other people to take them to, like avoid the ER. And like we learned this tangentially to this, like a doctor telling us that, but like we had a thing where I cut kind of the top of my finger off. Just a small laceration. But we did the whole ER thing, hours, all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, your tendon's fine. Like if you want to go see like a hand surgeon, you can, just, you know, for peace of mind or whatever. So we go to this hand surgeon. He's like, yeah, they're complete idiots. Like nobody in the ER knows what they're talking about. And
he's
like,
literally never, like, don't trust the ER.
He's like, do not go to the, and this is fully believed in the whole medical system, like hand surgeon. He's like, don't ever go to the ER. Like he was like, literally, I'm looking at it and you severed your tendon. Like they don't know what he's like. They were looking and it was your bone. I'm like, how do you not know the bone from a ligament? Like, and these are good hospitals. Like we live in a good area. Like this is not like,
And the hand doctor said, you know, you could just, or he said, next time, just call us, you know, don't go to the ER, just call us. And we try to get people in if we can. So we're like, well, that was 10 hours of our life we're not getting back. And, you know, reopening a wound and bills and just everything. But
long story short,
live and learn.
But that was, as you look for new doctors or like even reaching out to learn more. I think that's an important one. Like they talk about that on their website and stuff. Like we care about our patients. We give them our cell phone numbers, and we used that recently. We had some injuries and we called and like they walked us through stuff and had us, helpful things to say. So that is like awesome.
And also, I mean, we haven't been with them for too long, but there's already been things that have been like air quotes disagreements where they've said one thing and we said, oh, well, we like to do it this way. And they're like, oh, okay, that works too. Like there's no judgment or pushback or, I'm sure if we were saying something radical, they would be like, well, that, here's why that might not be the best, but just open to the alternatives. So another thing that I was going to say is, all of these doctors and places that we found are farther away.
Yep.
More of a hassle to get to. Not always covered by insurance, and so these are like the sacrifices that you have to be willing to make. And obviously we believe that the benefit far outweighs those sacrifices, but it's not just, you can't just live your life going to the closest doctor that your insurance covers. That, I mean, I totally get it with the insurance. We try to find things that are covered by insurance, but a lot of what we want to do and the care we want to receive is not. And so, I tell people all the time, we spend all our money on food, like all of our budget. How do you afford to eat like this? The carnivore diet and the all organic and not the bad ingredients. We spend all our money on food. That's how.
It's a significantly increased portion of our budget.
Yes, which we do want to do like more of a budgeting episode too in the future, but that also applies to like our medical expenses. We invest in ourselves. It's like pay now or pay later. You're going to be paying at some point for something because you're either going to take care of yourself and pay, or you're going to be sick and pay. So
exactly.
I'd rather pay to be healthy than pay once I'm sick.
So we have our chiropractor, we've got our family doctor, and then we've also engaged with a naturopath doctor. So like a more holistic doctor, just for they look at a lot more different things and
run a lot of different tests. They're more knowledgeable about like supplements versus, some traditional pharmaceuticals and things like that.
Yeah.
So they just like know more about those things. Whereas like a lot of just I hate to say traditional Western medical doctors.
Yeah.
They don't even know. They're not even taught. They don't take time on their own to look into these alternatives. And so like the one we went to was not a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, but I would totally go to somebody who practiced in like traditional Chinese medicine. We've looked into like acupuncture before. Basically, just for any doctor or ailment that you need someone for, try to find someone who's doing it differently.
Yeah.
Than the like
exactly
Western way.
And I'll say too, the naturopath who I went to for a lot of gut issues and things, and he ran more blood tests than I knew ever existed. Like, and I spent so much time with a gastrointestinal, like 2 separate practices of gastrointestinal doctors and PAs and all this stuff. And they did not test literally for some of the most common like ailments that can impact your gut and things like candida, which is a yeast infection. Never, ever, ever mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the first tests, this naturopathic thing. He's like, this could fit a lot of your things. And sure enough, I had a candida overgrowth. And just there's pages of these other things that he ran that like your B12, your like ability to detox your body, like all these different things they can measure, that blood tests exist for all these things that no doctor has ever mentioned before. So like they have more perspective and more options to like look at and test for and like herbal things and all of that. So I think they're a good one to have in your field too.
Yeah. And I can tell you right now, they're not going to be under your insurance, but
correct.
Just gotta suck it up.
Yeah.
The other thing I just thought of too is we've talked about this before, like doctoring yourself, being your own doctor, which none of this is medical advice. We're just sharing our experience, but Quest Labs, where you get blood work, you can now order your own blood work. Not everything that's available, but there's a lot that you can order yourself, and it's so affordable. Relative.
Do not ever.
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember if
We're
I
so
mentioned,
mad. Speaking of bitter.
Ugh. Never, ever, ever get blood work done at a hospital. So like I go to Moffitt for I had cancer. It's in previous episodes and all that good stuff.
No biggie.
2 years in remission. Hopefully going on 3 here in April. But I go there like on my yearly checkups to get an ultrasound and blood work. And long story short, they do the CBC, like the very basic blood work that everybody typically gets done when your blood work goes. And I get a bill in the mail, and it literally, they billed these things were over $700. $700. And then like
and that was just one part of it, because wasn't it over 1,000?
Yeah. One of them was 7. The other one was like 500. And that's what's billed. And then there's like the insurance just discount for having insurance. But then I still owed like several $100s on these things. Literally at Quest, the CBC that they charged me over $700 for is like $19. Like it's total highway route. And I called the hospital and was like, this is ridiculous. I'm looking at Quest. That you use Quest. And they're like, yeah, we use Quest to like run all of our things through. I'm like, it's $19 here and you're charging me $700. They're like, oh yeah, it's more expensive when you go through hospital. So I had some choice words for them, but they were like, oh, well, you should always ask when you come in to like what the cost is. Okay, thanks. You'll never get my business again. Anywho, yes, Quest is great. You can run your own blood work.
Yeah, and I've, gone through rabbit holes where I've convinced myself, this was another episode that we had where I convinced myself something's wrong with me. And I just did the Quest blood work and it was fine. And again, caveat that does not always tell the whole picture, but
yes,
it at least gives you one signal, one piece of the puzzle that, it just gives you more of the holistic view.
Yeah.
But then the biggest one that we I feel like forgot about is we're using a midwife for this pregnancy.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the team of people that we've been in a lot of contact with.
Well, that's so unique to like a more recent team member.
Yes, like literally
yeah. The last few weeks.
So I knew at the start of this pregnancy that I didn't want to just go down the same path that I did with my last two. And so I went many weeks, I'm sure people were getting concerned, like, when are you going to go to the doctor? And it's like, I have faith that, God blessed us with this child. Going to the doctor is not going to change whether or not the baby is, growing in my womb, doing all the things that he has to do. That's not made to happen better because you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like, it's happening, and then they can, maybe confirm some things for you, but they're not the ones making it happen. So anyways, long story short, I could not find somebody to fit my desires. And so I did end up going to my OB, and it was the worst day, like the worst anxiety I've had in a long time. Just every like fiber of my being was not wanting to be there. I was just like already arguing with her over stuff because they're just going off their checklist. They're just going off, this is what we do for everyone. This is what the ACOG, like it's like the American something pregnancy, gynecology, I don't know. Whatever their organization is, they're just doing what they're told. And if you even have a logical reason and present them with critical thinking as to why certain tests and things just do not need to be done, I don't know. It puts them on tilt. They don't understand. They don't comprehend having a patient that's like talking back to them.
Yes.
They're like, whoa, shut up and open your legs. I mean, that's what it is.
I mean, I don't know.
Ladies know. That's what it is. So I was like, I can't go back. Like, I can't go back. I don't know what I'm going to do. And thankfully, due to our network of people and their networks of people, we were able to get into contact with someone who was what I was looking for. And now we have a midwife for this pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so far, so good, obviously.
Yes.
Not totally through everything yet, but it's been a good experience so far. And again, it's not what everyone does. It's not what everyone's willing to do. Everyone's not willing to wait 12 weeks to, see the heartbeat on an ultrasound. But even I had those moments where I was like, I just need to go in. Like, I just want to see like that everything's okay. And then I'm like, no, like I'm trusting that everything is okay. Like God gave us this child, and obviously things happen and God gives children to people and things don't turn out well. But seeing it on an ultrasound or not doesn't change that. It either is good or it's either okay or it isn't, like,
Yeah.
so you just have to constantly, I feel like it's like a constant internal battle, which gives it a negative connotation, but it's a good thing. You have to just keep checking yourself and not just allowing yourself to slide back into your old ways, which is, of course, going to feel easier and feel more comfortable in the short term. But then in the long term, when you have a third birth that doesn't go the way that you want it to go, and you have to look back for the rest of your life on that and have regrets, that's not ideal.
Yep. So I think the last part of our main community is through our church community. I think it's been such a blessing to have a group of people, like a mom's group and a dad's group, of just like small groups that we can reach out to ask for prayer and to ask for just talk things through. Like we've literally never had that ever.
We're very, very thankful.
Yeah. So to have that part of the community, I think is just as important as your chiropractics and your medical doctors and naturopaths and midwives and all of that, is to have that.
And I talk about all the time online community and how important that can be too. And so there's actually this Facebook group that I'm a part of. I don't even know how I found it. It's like a local Crunchy Mom Facebook group.
Nice.
And so it's all people who are at least similarly minded. I'm sure we all have somewhat different beliefs, but it's a place where you can go and say like, oh, does anyone know a more holistic, I'm looking into this right now, so it's what comes to mind, pelvic floor therapist, and then you get recommendations, and at least it's like a starting point. And sometimes it's hard when you're just doing your own research on Google or whatever to find, okay, what does this person actually believe? Like, are they going to be more open, or are they going to be more medically minded? And of course there's ways to tell, but sometimes it is harder to know. And so just having that has been really great to be able to go to. And then, like Brian was saying, obviously just knowing more people that live in the area and who have similar beliefs too, to be able to text and say like, hey, have you ever needed, this doctor or whatever to go to, and who do you go to? And it's just like, you're not doing it alone. It just makes it so much easier. So we just want to encourage you to stay the course. If you've felt this strong pull to change things, you're changing things within the four walls of your home. But maybe it's a little harder to make these external changes, or when it's like go time, like your kid has a fever, what are you going to do? Are you going to reach for the Tylenol, or are you going to say, no, we're doing things differently this time? And based on very recent experiences, we can tell you that if you stay the course and you trust that the body is designed to heal and it's doing what it's supposed to do, and it's not broken or doing something why would the body do something that would hurt itself? Like, just look in nature. That doesn't make sense. It's not how progress works. But really just trust the research, trust the things that you've looked into. It's hard though when you're seeing your kid laying there, maybe not feeling the best, or you're seeing that thermometer a little higher than you're used to. And, for us, we don't have Tylenol in the house, so we can't reach for that. But there's always, Walmart 5 minutes away. And I felt tempted at times to just be like, you know what, I think we just should give him something. And I mean, we do have some more like herbal temperature things, but even that, unless it's getting to a really crazy place, you don't need to reduce a fever.
We're at the point, like, we definitely went through that. I feel like, at least for me, like, I was more hesitant in the beginning, and then I feel like we help each other balance each other, which is the whole point of marriage. So that's good. Yeah. And now, like, it's weird to say, but like, I feel like we almost celebrate fevers because we know that the body is doing what it's supposed to do. And we just had experience with like our oldest daughter, like never really mounting fevers. And our youngest daughter almost had a fever with each cold she had. And she was like immediately better like the next day. Like she would have a fever one day. We would, give the snuggles and the love and the water and, hydration, all the good things. And then go to sleep. And the next morning it was like brand new person.
Yep.
Fevers broken. And there was like concern about our oldest of like, hey, why can't she mount fevers and all this? And long story short, her most recent cold, she was able to mount a fever. Same thing. Not the best. Very sad, kind of hot, but
Yeah.
and
And
cold.
honestly,
And it's like,
they weren't that miserable. I mean,
No.
they were obviously, like sick, but they didn't have these like crazy high fevers. Of course, there is a certain point where you need to intervene with a fever, but we're talking about like just over 100, like just barely even considered a fever, but it's still like it's what the body needs in order to fight off whatever's going on in there. And it's amazing how quickly they were able to get better. So
cool.
That's just one example. There's with any number of things, like I feel like as parents of young kids and knowing other parents of young kids, all we hear about is like ear infections.
Yes.
So much ear infections. And on the one hand, we hear from people who, go to a chiropractor or are more crunchy and their kids, they overcame the chronic ear infections. And then on the other hand, it's just in the traditional model, they get the tubes, they go down the path, they, take the Tylenol every time or the antibiotics every time, all that stuff. And it's just like, we just feel, bad that people just don't know.
That's the thing. They
don't know, Yeah. Like there's plenty of things that we did earlier on in our parenting journey that we just didn't know. And that's why we thank God for waking us up to so many things. So it's not a place of judgment. It's just a place of like, wow, I wish somebody would have told me. But you're not in a relationship with everybody that you come across to be like, well, this is what you should do. Even if you're doing it from a good place, it's just, you're not always able to, you don't always have that type of relationship with the people that you're, just acquaintances with or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So anyways, your family may not agree with you. Your family may believe that chiropractors are quacks, but you want to take yourself and your children, like, go. They're your children. It's your life. It's not your family's life. If
and you can set up your next generation, like we talk about this too, like setting up generational, I feel like people talk about generational wealth, but like if you think about generational legacy, like you can be the one that changes it for like our girls. We never did chiropractic growing up, but like now our girls know at least about chiropractic, and as they get older, they can have the choice to know like, was that something that they felt like worked for them, and did they like that experience, and now they can do that for their kids or whatever. At least it was cute.
One day they were saying like one of them's going to be a chiropractor and the other one's going to be a midwife.
Oh, really?
I was like, okay, do that. But no, I think it just, and it goes back to like, with our families growing up, they just didn't know. And I feel like it's even harder back then without social media or things like that. Like how would you find out information unless you had someone in your life who already knew and was teaching you and training you. But even with our parents, there's certainly choices that we've made that they don't initially agree with, or they're like kind of confused. I mean, thankfully our families completely trust us and don't like question our judgment on things, but we're able to teach and educate and like get them to come around and be like, oh, like I didn't know about it that way before, but now I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So, cool. And we're still learning too. Like we say that all the time. Like the more you know, the more you
need
don't
to know.
know.
Yeah, the more you don't
I don't know what the saying is, but it's like there's so much to know. So
yeah,
you're never done learning.
Yeah, but just encourage you to keep going. If you're listening to this, we know you're on the path of looking into new things. So we just encourage you to keep doing that and staying strong and reaching out.
Be the weirdo, be the black sheep, be the person that, can't do 10 vacations a year because you buy grass-fed beef and see a holistic doctor. But it's okay. Like you'll be okay. Your kids will be okay.
I love the reels where it's like a dad or a mom cooking like a grass-fed filet for their daughter, and like it says like, I'm cooking her filet so your McDonald's doesn't impress her or whatever, like in the future, like for their future husband or whatever.
Your dusty son.
Yeah. Like, okay, well, we've definitely done that because my girls know the difference between the taste of a ribeye, a filet, a New York strip, and a sirloin. Yeah. So
all the things they always ask, is this filet? And we're like, Oh, like, sorry. We like, can't have filet every night.
Yeah. Sorry. It's just ribeye. Sorry. It's fun though.
Yeah.
So anyway, you got this. Keep it up. And feel free to reach out. That's why we're here.
Yep. But thanks for listening. We're excited to be back, and we can't wait for more episodes to come out. We're going to try to be back into a regular cadence, at least for the next few months. Then we might go off the rails again. But we'll see you next time.
Bye.